لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير النبي المرسل رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إنه تعلم وتعليم تذكر وتذكير ونفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة حتى تمسك بكتاب الله سنة رسول الله دعاء للهداة الأخير وجه الله مرضاته وقربه وثواب لله تعالى. اللهم ها هنا بين يديك وضعفنا لا يخفى عليك فتعامل لطفك وجودك برحمتك رحم الراحمين استحمر كلها ظاهرها باطنها فإنك على كل شيء قدير وعلى سؤالنا جدير. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين آمين آمين. طيب يا إخوان الحمد لله بارك الله فيكم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So we're now on the fiqh of fasting, which is on page 14 of your notes, and there's a quote here which I'm going to translate inshallah, and anybody who knows Arabic, it's a very important quote. Because it's to do with the issue of ikhtilaf, the issue of difference in the ummah. And the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in an athar, which is ikhtilaf ummati rahmah. Ikhtilaf ummati rahmah. The differences of my nation is a mercy. This particular hadith, in terms of its chain of narration, is a very weak hadith. However, in terms of its meaning, in terms of what its purport is and its text points towards, this is an established principle in our deen. That indeed the differences amongst the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ within certain parameters is a praiseworthy thing. And this particular quote that you have, we haven't translated this yet, so you can be the first to translate it inshallah. Maybe write this down if you have your notes. Is a saying from Imam al-Khattabi. Imam al-Khattabi is a sharih or commentator on the great books of hadith of the Sunan of Abu Dawood. Now, this is a quote from his work, and it's a quote on the hadith of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he says, "Rufiyat al-ummati al-thalath al-khata' والنسيان وما أكره عليه." Three things have been lifted from my ummah. The Prophet is speaking here. Khata, mistakes, unintentional mistakes, and nisyan, forgetting, and وما أكره عليه, and that which they have been forced to commit. Lifted from the ummah, which means what? They are not held responsible. The perpetrator is not held responsible. What are they? Ruf in ummati thalath, al-khata, a mistake, wa nisyan, forgetfulness, wa ma ukriha alayhi, and that which they have been forced to commit. Is that clear? What relevance does this have to what we are talking about right now? I'm going to read the quote to you and translate it, and inshallah you'll see the relevance and see the importance of this quote yourself. قال الخطابي, the great Imam al-Khattabi says, معنى الحديث إن أن الخطأ موضوع عن الناس فيما كان سبيله الاجتهاد. He says that wherever there is a possibility of differing scholars pondering about an issue and looking for the correct judgment. Okay? So this issue, it requires ijtihad, requires different scholars to think about the same issue. Clear so far? فَلَوْ أَنَّ قَوْمًا اجْتَهَدُوا فَلَمْ يَرَوْا الْحِلَالَ. So if a group of people exerted themselves and they did not see the hilal, they did not see the moon, the crescent, إلا بعد 30 فلم يفطروا حتى استوفوا العدد ثم ثبت عندهم أن الشهر كان 29 فإن صومهم وفطرهم ماض لا شيء عليهم من وزر أو عتب. He says if a group of people exerted themselves and looked for the hilal, the moon, and after 30 days, so they completed the fast, they completed the month, the previous month, 30, Sha'ban yani. Then they entered into Ramadan. And these people fasted for 30 days Yes. Then they realized, in fact, that the Sha'ban was only for 29 days. It was only for 29 days, which means that what? They fasted Ramadan a day late. They fasted Ramadan a day late. No? And they also discovered later that their month was only 29 days. They also discovered later that their month was 29 days. So what is the position of their Sawm? Yes? He says, فَإِنَّ صَوْمُهُمْ وَفِطْرُهُمْ مَاضٍ لَا شَيْءَ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ وِزْرٍ وَعَتَبٍ. He says, as for their Sawm, their fasting, and them breaking their fast at the time of Eid, there's nothing upon them. No sin upon them, nor any blame upon them, or any reproach upon them. Why? He continues. He says, إنما هذا تخفيف من الله سبحانه وتعالى والرفق بعباده. Indeed, this dispensation is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the gentleness of Allah with His slaves. In that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has lifted this. Why? Because they attempted to see the moon, they were unable to see it. They exerted themselves, and then due to a mistake, they overfasted. This is one extra day. So there's no harm upon them. There's no harm upon them. But due to for them fasting one day less, what do they need to do now? Just make up one qada, and that's it. Just make up one qada, and that's done. There's no sin upon them. The reason why he says this, he says, فَأَمَّا مَا كَانَ سَبِيلُهُ وَالِاجْتِهَادِ كَانَ الْخَطَأُ غَيْرَ مَعْمُولٍ فِيهِ انْتَهَى. He says, because the issue requires what? Requires diligence and due perseverance and due striving in order to reach the judgment. Since they did what was in their best capability, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold them responsible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold them responsible. What they do have to do is make up that extra day. Is that clear? So when it comes to the issues of the hilal, ya ikhwan, a person shouldn't get into a large amount of discussion and debate, because this will change the intent of what Allah has expected you to do in Ramadan. He has expected you to debate with other believers. He expected you to fast and increase in piety to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we now turn inshallah to page 16. The reality of fasting. Where does the word Sawm linguistically come from? And remember what we said about that. We said that it's important sometimes to know linguistically where the words come from, because they give you a meaning of what the word means in its essence. Imam Qurtubi, he mentions that the word Sawm means to abstain from something, to move aside from something, and from one state of affairs from one thing to another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran in the linguistic sense, because you have two meanings. You have the normal literal meaning of the word Sawm, and thereafter you have the technical definition of the word Sawm. Now, you have the technical definition of the word Sawm. So when we say in the Quran, Allah says in the Quran, I should say, He says, إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا. Sayyidina Maryam, she says, إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا. She says, indeed, I have intended from Ar-Rahman Sawm. I've intended from Ar-Rahman to keep away. To keep away from what? From all people. Because what did she do? Alayhi salam, what did she do? She kept away from people in worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is using this word to mean the linguistic meaning. What is the linguistic meaning? What does it mean? To keep away from, to abstain from. And what is the technical definition then of meaning sawm? If you go down, technical meaning in law is abstaining from those acts that nullify the fast, from the breaking of true dawn to the setting of the sun, coupled with an intention. So there's what are the three aspects of it? Keeping away from those things that invalidate the fast, number one. From the period of true dawn to sunset. And thirdly, intention, niyyah. Those are the three things. Those are the three necessary and compulsory aspects for your fast to be valid. Yes? Repeat what those three things again. Abstaining from the nullifiers of the fast. Abstaining from the nullifiers of the fast between the break of dawn to sunset. And the third one, intention. These are the three most important aspects of one's fast. If any one of these three are found void or missing, then the person's fast is not in fact complete. This is the legal aspect of fasting. This is the legal aspect of fasting. No? No? This is the legal aspect of fasting. No? As for the fast of the muqarrabin, the fast of those people of proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have further conditions still. They have further conditions still in which the fast is not just a fast from the prohibited or the fast from these things, the manhiyat, the prohibited of what is possible to consume or to perform in the days of fasting, but also further. And inshallah we'll get to the three stages of that Imam Ghazali himself mentions. But before we do that, let's inshallah look at what are some of the fiqh of fasting and when fasting becomes legally binding. No? Legally binding. Tayyib. Okay, the first of all of those is that for the fast to become legally binding, a person has to fulfill 6 conditions. No? A person has to perform 6 conditions. First of all, fasting is not incumbent on a non-Muslim. So, if people try to force non-Muslims to fast, it's not a good idea. It's not incumbent on them in the first place. Number 2, the person should be a sahib al-aql, a person should have intellect. That a person who suffers from some form of madness or some form of not being totally intelligent, that person also fasting is not compulsory upon that person. Thereafter, legal maturity. Legal maturity, that is a person who has reached the age of legal maturity. Okay. For boys, that comes at the age of ihtilam or the age of a wet dream. He becomes legally mature. Or 14 years and 8 months. 14 years and 8 months, whichever comes quicker. Whichever comes quicker. Clear? Okay, for girls, if a girl has a menstruation after the age of 11, she becomes legally mature, or until she reaches the same age as boys, 14 and 8 months. Is that clear? Yes? So a person becomes legally mature with that, with the passing of that time period. Is that clear? After the person he has to be free from illnesses. The person has an illness by which if he or she fasts, the illness will exacerbate, or there'll be delay in the recuperation, or in those scenarios, or a new illness will develop. Yes? A new illness will develop. In all of those scenarios, the person is absolved from fasting. The person absolved from fasting. Is that clear? Person is free from illnesses. Clear? The same also goes for a woman who's wet nursing, who's breastfeeding her child or somebody else's child also, and harm will come to the child due to the depletion of milk. She also is absolved from fasting, and she should make it up at her earliest convenience. Free from menstruation and postnatal bleeding. As we know, a menstruating woman does not fast, nor does she, nor does a person who has just given birth, postnatal bleeding. And this tells you something about Islam. There's a menstruating woman make up salah. Okay, that's right. Yeah, menstruating woman does not make up salah. There's a menstruating woman make up fasting. Yes, she does. Which of the two is actually greater, fasting or salah? Salah. It's one of the second pillar of Islam. No, it comes in order. Salah. But however, Allah has ordered for her to make up the Sawm, but not make up the Salah. And the ulama have mentioned this is due to the haraj, the great hardship upon women. Imagine if they had a period of 10 days, the maximum possible. Yes? They prayed for 10 days, and then they had to make it up as soon as it came off. That's 50 salahs to make up. Yes? It will cause extreme hardship for women. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his rahmah for his ibad, for his slaves, has not made that compulsory, but has made compulsory the completion of and qada of fasting. So the fast of Ramadan is conditional upon these three things. These six things, sorry. And number 6, resident, not a traveler. So if a person is a traveler, fasting is not compulsory upon him, although if he fasts with the intention, is it enacted? Yes, it is. The fast is enacted. Okay, is that clear? Mafhum? Okay, what if a person travels from here, let's say, to Glasgow, Peterborough to Glasgow, and he goes to visit his relatives, and he stays there for 10 days?
Still traveling, isn't it?
What do people think? Brother said he's still a traveller.
He has intention to stay there for 10 days.
Okay. What if he ends up staying for 4 weeks?
A traveller. So the intention was 10 days, he stayed for 4 weeks, he's still be a traveller.
Okay, good. Yeah, if the person goes there and his intentions are for anything less than 14 days or less, he remains a traveller. If he intends for anything greater than 14 days and 15 days or more, then he is considered to be a resident. Then fasting is obligatory upon him. However, if the person intends to leave after 10 days, but due to whatever reason, let's say the referendum comes early or something, yes, okay, and they all separate the two countries, right? And he can't get back into his country. Okay, in that scenario, then even if he stays there for a week or for years, but he's intending to leave the next day, he's still a traveller. Okay, still a traveller. Okay, so ya ikhwan wa akhwat, that is the fast of Ramadan, conditional upon those things. It's conditional upon those conditions that are there.
See, in terms of like when you become a traveller, for not fasting, at what point do you have to start your journey not to fast? So if I fast and then I travel at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, there you go. This is very important, and many people actually get this wrong. Okay, you have to leave the city boundary, or be outside of the city boundary by at least the time of dawn break. Dawn break or just before dawn break. So basically, let's say you're traveling from here to London. Let's say today's Ramadan, and you end up leaving now. And you leave the city boundary and you pull into your service station and order a coffee or something. Yes? In that scenario, the person is actually sinful, because he can only invalidate his fast if he has left the city boundaries just before the time of dawn break, when the fast starts, basically. Is that clear?
How about, you've got intention to stay there for more than 40 days, but you're, I don't know, in terms of the actual day that you're travelling, let's just say you've met that criteria, whereby you've left before dawn break, would you have to fast for that day that you are travelling?
If you've left before dawn break, then no.
But you do intend to stay there for 40 days.
For 14 days?
14 days.
There you are. Okay, the place that you are travelling to, yes, if it is more than 51 miles or more, yes, then you don't have to fast that particular day. Okay? There. Okay? Good. Any other questions before we move on, inshallah?
What if your job is actually travelling? You got to go from the city, you got to go somewhere in the morning every single day.
Okay. Okay, your job is traveling and you have to go every single day outside of your city.
Yeah.
And your intention is to go to a place which is greater than 51 miles?
Yeah.
Okay, if your intention is greater than 51 miles and you leave that city before dawn break, so let's say that's what, 10 past 1 in the morning, yes? then you could still make that fast up later. Okay? Inshallah. Okay, save your questions for the end, inshallah, so we can just get through so much time left, inshallah. But Tabarakallah, that's a good question, alhamdulillah. All the good questions. Okay. What are the compulsory factors of fasting? We've mentioned these in passing very quickly. Intention. The correct time, which is after sunset, Maghrib, or the preceding day of the fast, and before the mid-morning duha for optional fast and compulsory fast of Ramadan performed in Ramadan. Okay. Now, the right time for your intention for fasting of Ramadan starts from Maghrib, yes, and ends at duha al-kubra. Duha al-kubra. I'll classify what that time is in a moment. So, if a person breaks his fast at iftar time by eating at the correct time, he can make at that point intention for the next day's fast. He has a time, basically, any time now from Maghrib time now, all the way to the time of Dahwa al-Kubra of the next day, if it is the Ramadan of the year. Is that clear? Clear? Tayyib. So let's say today is Ramadan. Obviously it's 3 o'clock now. So the time, and he wants to fast, make the intention for this day. It's too late now. Because why? Because time for Duha al-Kubra is gone. If he wants to fast now for tomorrow, he has to wait till Maghrib time has started. From Maghrib now till Duha al-Kubra, those are the times he can intend his fast. Outside of those times, the intention is not valid. So he has to fast, have to have the intention for fast at particular times. Is that clear? Now, Duha al-Kubra, this is how you calculate this. Okay, let's have a real example, inshallah, very quickly. Okay, let's have a real example. How do you calculate Duha al-Kubra? Okay. Is there a projector upstairs?
Yeah.
So they'll see this already.
Yeah, I'm zooming.
Okay, okay. So this is how you calculate Duha al-Kubra. Very quickly, take the time for dawn minus sunrise. Okay. Divide all of that, whatever that comes to, by 2. So that's why it's a good idea to pay attention in maths, everybody, yes? Because we need it in our calculations, okay? Whatever that gives you, that's going to give you X, yes? Then you do Zawal, take away whatever that X comes to, and that gives you the time for Duha al-Kubra. Should we have a real life example now? Everybody get that? So dawn less sunrise, divide that by 2 equals X. Then you have Zawal time, take away X. So let's put in real numbers now. Let's say, for sake of argument, 1:13 a.m. Okay? Sunrise, 4:41. Which gives us how much? Okay, 3 hours and? 3 hours and... Who's the accountant here? Inshallah. 3 hours?
28 minutes.
That's right. 3 hours and 28 minutes. Okay. Divide that by 2. Gives us Where are the mathematicians?
1 hour and 44 minutes.
1 hour and, that's right, 1 hour 44 minutes, yes? Remember it's minutes we're talking here, so we can't say 1 hour, 0.5. Yes? It's only 60 minutes to the hour, not 100. It's not metric, okay? Okay. It's not imperial, it's not metric, it's imperial, sorry. Yeah, okay. So Zawal, let's say Zawal now is 113. Yes, which sounds about right, yes? 113? Which will equal now 130 less 144. Somebody's at work.
Yeah,
21 minutes.
Sorry?
21 minutes.
No.
But minus it.
Minus. So take away 1 hour, so it's 12 o'clock.
31 minutes.
Take away 13 from the 14, so you've got, 31 minutes left. So 12 o'clock less 31 minutes is 29. 11:29. Yes? Everybody agree? Yeah?
He had an answer ready, because he was telling me.
11:29. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Everybody sisters have more look at this than the brothers. There you go. It's 11:29. So basically you have to intend from Maghrib time to this time. Anything intention outside of this time is not a correct time for your intention. The best advice I can give, as we have, is that clear? Can I move on from this? Yes? I'm sure, assuming the sisters already calculated this. Okay, so what's the best form for you to do? The best form for you to do, ya ikhwan, if anyone's been to Sham or to Jordan or to other places where the Hanafis are in great number, what they do after the Taraweeh prayer, they make a communal intention. The whole masjid makes a communal intention, and they all intend that we are fasting now for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way possible for the blessed month of Ramadan, so Allah forgive us. So that's one way you could possibly do it. But in the absence of that, there's another way you could also do it. It's just make the intention yourself after Maghrib. Make at the time you break your iftar, immediately say at the same time, make the intention for the next day. Or if you get it for suhoor also, obviously, you can make your intention, which you should do, you can make your intention at that time. Tayyib. Now, the position of Imam Malik is that one person can make an intention for the whole month in one day. So they can say, for example, I am now fasting this day that is coming tomorrow, and every day of this month of this year of Ramadan till as many days as there are. Yes, that's another method. That's only according to Madhab of Malik, but a person should also do this just in a perchance that he should forget his intention. It's still permissible to use the Madhab of Malik in that particular position. Now, that's in the situation in which you are performing the fast of the particular day. So basically, if you're performing the fast for Ramadan tomorrow, what if you've got a qada left? What if you've got a qada of Ramadan left from previous years? Sisters may have qadas left from their menstruation, or brothers may have qada left when they travelled. Yes. So what is the situation for that? It's slightly different. For that, intention is slightly different. A person has to make sure that they have intended that the qada prayer, that they have to make sure they have intended before dawn. Yes? So from Maghrib time to the dawn time, breaking of dawn. Not what? Not this time, not duha. Is that clear? Clear? There's two things. If it's the Ramadan of this year, like tomorrow for example, it can be up till this time, duha. If it's not, it has to be, if it's qada, if it's a previous year, it has to be what? Before dawn. Before dawn. Tayyib. Okay, is that clear? Mafhum so far? Okay, tayyib, mashallah.
Does the niyyah have to be verbal?
No, there's a sunnah dua for the intention, but it does not necessarily have to be verbal. As long as it's in the person's heart, that is enough of intention. Okay, tayyib. A child is ordered to fast at the age of 7. A child is ordered to fast at the age of 7, and at the age of 10, he's incited to fast. At the age of 10, he is incited to fast. And that is the same whether it comes to the ahkam shari'iyah. When it comes to rulings of the sharia, for example, if a child walks about naked, before the age of 7 there's no harm, and if a person doesn't rebuke the child, that's fine. But after the age of 7, the child should be ordered, and after the age of 10, the child should be rebuked. Yes, the child should be rebuked. Okay, and same goes for Sawm also. So let's now look at the second part of that, abstain from the nullifiers of the fasts. Yes, we talked about intention, and let's look at the nullifiers of the fast. Now the nullifiers of the fast, there are 2 types, as you can see. Nullifiers that require just qada, which is re-performance. Yes, and then there are nullifiers that require both re-performance and atonement, kafara. Let's look at both these 2 separately. Okay, so kafara, what is kafara? Kafara is a person who needs to fast. First of all, we'll go through it in order very quickly. Is the person has to free a slave, thereafter fast for 60 days continuously without break, and in the absence of that, option number 3 is to feed 60 people or 1 person over 60 days. Okay, so we'll do that in a moment, inshallah. But let's just look at what the nullifiers are first. Okay, so let's look at now nullifiers that require both qada and kafara. Okay, number 1 is that and this is also on the condition that the person hasn't been forced or not under duress to perform this. Okay, and number 1, you can read that by yourself. It's quite clear, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, and then we have just related to that point, related to point number 1, kissing does not invalidate the fast. Kissing does not invalidate the fast between spouses, although the exchange of saliva does. Okay, kissing does not invalidate the fast, but the exchange of saliva does. Exit of sexual fluids from either gender with no stimulation, then also does not invalidate the fast. Also does not invalidate the fast. But merely looking does not invalidate the fast. Okay, is that clear so far? Tayyib. Let's now move on to eating and drinking, which is on the next page, page 18. Tayyib. So this first one, will require both qada and kafara. Require both qada and kafara. And this number 2 will also require what? Both qada and kafara. Eating or drinking that which gives the body nourishment, even if it is as small as a sesame seed, if it has been put in the mouth and not from within it. So putting anything in the mouth which can bring you nourishment, no matter how small, from exterior to the mouth, you're putting it in from outside into the mouth, that also what? Will invalidate your fast, but also will demand what? Kafara, demand atonement. Now, and this is the case whether it be medicine or not medicine, whether it's an inhaler or tablets or pository, also will invalidate your fast. Okay, the exit points are basically the entrance points of the mouth or from the rear. Yes. Both of those entry points through which, if you put anything through there which gets into inside of your stomach, which it does, that will invalidate your fast. If it's done intentionally, it will also require atonement, kafara. Is that clear? Clear? Tayyib. We'll get to some of the details in a moment, inshallah ta'ala. We'll talk about some details. Tayyib. And you have, if somebody, however, eats something which does not bring nourishment to the body. does not bring nourishment to the body. For example, this is just for the sake of making it clear to you, maggot-infested meat, for example. Yes? Maggot-infested meat. If a person eats that, he will have to do a qada, but there's no kafara upon him. I'm sure nobody's going to do that anyway, so inshallah, don't worry about the details about that, inshallah. Tayyib. So a person who eats maggot-infested meat would have to perform qada, but not kafara. Tayyib. Also, for example, if a person eats paper, yes? What do you think the judgment will be?
It's the same as
maggot-infested meat. Yeah, exactly. The same as maggot-infested meat. If a person eats paper, what's due upon him is just weird. It's just due upon him is qada, and there's no kafara upon him. Okay? Tayyib.
Surely if you were going to eat maggot-infested meat, you probably wouldn't meet the condition of fasting in the first place.
You're intelligent.
Yeah.
Tayyib, inshallah. Tayyib. You get some people to do. Tayyib. Okay, and thereafter you have smoking intentionally. Smoking intentionally. So if a person, even if it's secondary smoke, if you smoke intentionally in secondary smoke, like for example, let's say you're walking past your workplace, everybody smokes unfortunately for you, and you don't smoke but you inhale the smoke intentionally. Yes? That also demands kafara and also qada. If, however, you walk past a group of people and they are smoking, you try your best not to inhale any of the smoke, there's no blame upon you. There's no harm upon you. Is that clear? So can you see the kafara cases are actually very few in number? They do in marital relations, they do with intentionally eating food. And intentionally eating food which is of benefit to you. Okay? That if a person performs any of those, kafara is binding and also qada is binding. Now let's look at the state now where only qada is binding, and that's the second type. Okay? Tayyib. Okay, tayyib. Now that includes eating, drinking, or relations which are committed unintentionally or forced. Committed unintentionally or forced. Okay. For example, drinking water unintentionally when one is gargling during wudu, forced to eat food, or when one had relations whereby he still considered it to be the night when in fact the time for the Fajr prayer has entered. So this person has to perform qada. No? This person has to perform qada. Okay, let's go to why this is the case. A person is gargling water. He knows that he is fasting. He hasn't forgot. He hasn't forgot. He knows he's fasting. He's gargling water. First of all, should he be gargling water? No. Even if the person needs to take a ghusl or performing wudu, the person who is fasting should not be gargling water. He should only take it into his mouth and spit it out like that and so forth. He shouldn't gargle to his throat. Okay, is that clear? So during wudu, this person is gargling. So if he swallows that gargling, it's unintentional, yes. What was binding upon him now? Only qada. Only qada. Because if he would have drank intentionally, what would be binding upon him? Kafara and qada. Kafara and qada, inshallah. Tayyib. Now, then also, if a person ate food unintentionally, not out of forgetfulness, unintentionally. For example, let's say he had taken, let's say 10 seconds left to the end of the time for suhoor. Yes? Sake of argument. He takes a big bite of an apple, yes, and he swallows it, and there's a little bit left, and he like a little bit, a sizable amount, a little bit, yes, left, and he also eats that just after the time has gone. Has he done that out of forgetfulness? No. Intentionally? Unintentional. It's gone down. So kafara is not binding upon him, but what's binding upon him? Qada. Qada is binding upon him. So last bite of your suhoor, just make sure that you get it in good time, inshallah. Tayyib? Okay. طيب. Now, thereafter, ya ikhwan, thereafter, also, well, if a person has relations in the belief that the time has not yet lapsed, but in fact it has lapsed, the dawn has broken, yes. Also, that person has to perform qada. That person also has to perform qada, but not atonement, kafara. Okay, is that clear? Mafhum? Tayyib. Okay. Tayyib. Okay. The nullifiers also of qada, of fast and making fast qada upon a person's ignorance. Let's say a person is ignorant about certain things. Okay, let's read that. Invalidating one's fast intentionally after believing out of ignorance that one's fast had already been invalidated. For example, somebody ate out of forgetfulness. Yes? Somebody ate out of forgetfulness. Forgetfulness does not break one's fast, no matter what a person does. No matter what a person does. Somebody came to Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and this was after the Prophet ﷺ had passed on to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into the divine realm. And he came to Abu Hurairah and he said, Ya Abu Hurairah, Ya Abu Hurairah, قد أحلقت فقد لقد شربت الماء في الصوم. He said, Oh Abu Hurairah, I've been destroyed. I've just drank water in my fast. Then he said to Hal nasita? He goes, did you forget? He goes, Na'am. He goes, fa la shay alayk. And he says, nothing is upon you and it's no harm. Go and complete your fast. After some moments later, this person came back, Ya Abu Hurairah, Ya Abu Hurairah, qad ahlaqt, aqaltu fi nisf al-nahar. He goes, Oh Abu Hurairah, I've been destroyed. I've eaten something in the middle of the day. So Abu Hurairah said to you, Hal akalt amdan or nisyanan? Did you eat out of intent or did you forget? Bal nasit. He said, no, I forgot. Abu Hurairah goes, La shay alayka irja. There's nothing upon you, go back. After some moments later, the person came, Ya Abu Hurairah, Ya Abu Hurairah, qad ahlaqt. Oh Abu Hurairah, I've become destroyed. Somebody asked him, he goes, Bima, what? What have you, why? He says, قد جامعت امرأتي في النهار. I've had relations with my spouse in the day. So Abu Hurairah, لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله أنتم قوم غير متعودين على الصوم. Because you people are a people that are not يعني متعود. You're not accustomed to fasting. And he said, ارجع فلا شيء عليك. Go, there's nothing upon you. But even in that case, nothing upon him. Why? Because he forgot. Because he forgot. Tayyib. So drinking water unintentionally when one is gargling during wudu, forced to eat food, or when one had relations whereby still considering it to be the night when in fact the time for the Fajr prayer has entered. All of these cases declare and require qada, do not require kafara. Is that clear? Mafhum? Tayyib. Thereafter, you have ignorance. No? So a person eats something out of forgetfulness. Yes, clear? A person eats something out of forgetfulness. Then he thinks, subhanallah, my fast is now invalidated. But out of his ignorance. Why? Because eating something out of forgetfulness, does it break your fast? No. What does he then do? Then he takes a cup of water or some food and he drinks a full cup. What's the ruling now? He has to perform qada. The first thing he drank was out of forgetfulness. He could have continued his fast, no problem. The second water he drank, he said, oh, my fast is broken now, I'm going to drink some water. So he continues drinking. In that situation, the fast becomes invalidated. And normal scenario, because this is intentional now, normal scenario would be that what? He would have to perform qada and kafara. But because of his ignorance of the fact of that previous rule, the ruling that forgetfulness doesn't break your fast, the deen is merciful to him and says that you only need to make it up and not perform kafara. Make sense? Okay, we're going to end soon, inshallah. These rulings are always a bit more difficult than the first part, so apologies, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تؤمنوا حتى تكون هوا لما جئت به. None of you truly believe until your hawa, your desires, are in accordance with that which I have brought. And this, the rulings, the sharia, at-mutahhara, is also from the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. So we have to bow ourselves in submission to the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His deen. Clear so far, ya ikhwan? Mafhum? Tayyib. For example, if one ate or drank or had marital relations in a state of forgetfulness, or he had a wet dream or seminal discharge occurred after gazing, or a person vomited incorrectly believing that these invalidate one's fast, actually performs an action which invalidates one's fast, then that person is liable to re-perform the fast, but not atonement. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. A person puts medicine in their nose intentionally. A person puts medicine intentionally in their nose. Okay? And the person does this out of ignorance. Out of ignorance. What is due upon him? Qada. Qada. Because the nose has an opening to the throat. The nose has an opening to the throat. There. A person has a deep bodily injury in the abdomen, and there's a drip going directly into his abdomen. Yes? He's unaware. Qada or kafara? Or both? Okay, easy. Qada or both? Okay. Oh, either. Okay. It's actually qada because it's going straight into his abdomen. Anything that goes straight into the abdomen of a person, yes, that will invalidate the fast. That will invalidate the fast. If somebody has a glucose drip going into the veins, qada or kafara? Neither. Doesn't nullify the fast. Does not nullify the fast. You might think, why is that the case? Because that will give you energy. Yes? Because the nullifiers of the fast are restricted to certain entry points. The nullifiers of the fast are restricted to certain entry points. It's basically the mouth, anything connected to it. The rear, because by which I mean the backside, because that takes, there's a passage directly to the abdomen. Yes? And any injury which leads directly to the abdomen, or any surgical operation which leads directly to the abdomen. Anything other than those two things, yes, anything other than those two things, as long as it doesn't go into that area, it does not invalidate the fast. Okay? There. Now, if you turn the page, there's a bit more detail. If a person ate intentionally after believing his fast to be invalidated, after performing blood cupping, passionately kissing, or embracing passion while naked, without seminal discharge or lying with one's spouse, in all these cases he has to re-perform the fast and perform atonement. Because ignorance was not deemed excusable unless if somebody he claimed or he thought to be a jurist gave him such a ruling, or he followed the apparent meaning of a prophetic tradition. What does that mean? Tayyib. If you read the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and you come across the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith of the Prophet mentioned to you that the person who does blood cupping, both the person cupped and the one cupping, both of their fast is invalidated. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ mentions this. Also, kissing, yes, or embracing unclothed. These things are also, a person may think that his fast invalidated because of these two things. In fact, it's not the case. So ignorance in this reason is not enough. It's not an excuse. So the person has to perform qada and kafara. However, if somebody told him, somebody which he thought of somebody personal knowledge, and he told him it's okay, or he read the hadith of the Prophet and just came across it and didn't understand what the scholars meant by this hadith, and he practiced upon the zahir of the hadith, or he followed the judgment of this particular jurist who gave him his judgment, in that scenario, kafar is not due upon him, only qada. Why? Because he's not responsible. He's not responsible for that. Okay? Is that clear? What we have to understand from this, that ignorance is not an excuse. Ignorance is not an excuse. Do you have any law students here? No? If you look at laws, they've got these small Blackwell law manuals. If you look into that, they've got quotes within there. There's a quote by a law lord from the 11th century, and he says that ignorance is no excuse. For if ignorance was an excuse, every man shall deem it his own. Meaning that if you tell somebody, well, I didn't know, every person is going to say, I didn't know. Ignorance is no excuse. A person has to seek the knowledge of Allah and the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tayyib, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Tayyib. Okay. That's why the Prophet he said, Ughdu aliman, aw muta'alliman, aw mustami'an, aw muhibban, wa la takun khamisa fatahluk. The Prophet said, arise in the morning as a scholar, or as a person trying to become learned. Yes? Or a person who listens to these people, alim, or a teacher or a student, or muhibban lahu, or lover of those people. Don't be the fifth category, except that you'll be destroyed. Yes? So learning the knowledge of our deen is something necessary, ya ikhwan. We can't give nahda, we can't give rejuvenation to this deen unless we know what the deen itself calls towards. Otherwise it's an empty call. It's like when you have a sticker on your car, I love Islam. Yes? That's good, inshallah, but it's like, have you reduced us to the football teams, basically? Yes? When people have I love Chelsea or whatever. I only know that because my son does. No? Tayyib, okay. So yeah, ikhwan, we need to learn our deen, alhamdulillah. Tayyib. Now number 3, let's go on to the traveller. The traveller who left his city after dawn, beginning time for Fajr Salah, and he was previously a resident. He started fasting. He was under the impression that becoming a traveller allows him the dispensation, rukhsa, to invalidate his fast. Invalidating one's fast in such a way will demand the re-performance of one's fast, but not kafara. Basically, the question the brother asked just a moment ago. Basically, everybody thinks that I'm a traveller, so therefore I'm going to break my fast. Yes? They leave at Asr time, for example. Yes? Or Dhuhr time. They drive outside and they break their fast. They start becoming a traveller at Dhuhr time. Is that correct? No, because they have to start becoming a traveller at what time? Before dawn or just before dawn. Yes? So therefore that person cannot break their fast. Say out of ignorance he breaks his fast anyway. What do we say? Sisters? Brothers? Qada. Qada but no kafara. Qada but no kafara. No. Smoke entering one's body intentionally. Smoke entering one's body intentionally. Also, qada, not kafara. Okay, number 5, believing the time for maghrib, twilight or dusk, prayer has entered, one ends his fast only to discover later that the time for Maghrib prayer has not in fact begun. Similarly is the case regarding Fajr prayers. If one continues eating only to discover that the time of dawn has entered. Both those cases, what will the person have to do? Qada. Both those cases, a person will have to perform Qada.
Yeah, for the morning, if I say 1:15, can he up to 1:15, you break 1:16, or is it 1:14? And that is technicality.
1:15 and 59 seconds.
1:15 and 59 seconds.
59 seconds. It's the time itself. Okay? طيب inshallah.
That last clock counts.
طيب inshallah. Alhamdulillah. طيب. Okay, miscellaneous points now. Miscellaneous points. طيب. That's the next page, on page 120. A person whose fast has been invalidated during Ramadan should prevent himself from actions which break the fast. So a person has broken his fast. Should he go on the street now and order himself some food? No. He should act like a person like the rest of the people in society are fasting. Yes? Especially more relevant in Muslim societies, or in societies where Muslims dominate, like Peterborough. Alhamdulillah. Yes? Similarly, if a woman in a state of menstruation or postnatal bleeding stops bleeding during the day or night, should refrain from all actions that would invalidate the fast. All actions that would invalidate the fast. This goes in public. While in private, she shouldn't act like a person who's fasting. While in private, the woman should not act like she's a person who's fasting. In fact, that's makruh for the woman. Okay, is that clear? The same will applies to a non-Muslim who becomes a Muslim. Okay, okay. In the section of kafara, page 20, you have what is the atonement if a person intentionally breaks their fast? No. And you have the details there. 2 consecutive months fasting, or to feed people both dinner and supper to 60 people. Yes? You can either feed one person 60 times, but dinner and supper, or 60 people, dinner and supper. That on the condition that you cannot physically fast for 60 days, 2 months. Cannot physically fast for 2 months. The first option for slavery, I've left that one out, obviously, due to its limited use in our present times. Yes. The value equivalent of a meal can also be given to the poor. So you can go to a church and say, I want to give, on the assumption you can't do number 1, I want to give kafara. They'll tell you how much it costs for each person. You times that by 60, and you can give that away. Yes? Clear? But it's in this order. A person can't go to number 3 without trying number 1 first. Yes? Is that clear? Okay. The sunnah aspects of fasting. Now, the sunnah aspects of fasting to consume the pre-dawn meal, suhoor, and there's great blessings in that. There's great blessings for consuming that. And to have it to close to the time of Fajr as possible without obviously coming into time of Fajr. To hasten to end the fast during the time of dusk, Maghrib, and to intend the next day's fast at night. The next day's fast at night. Now, the Prophet said, Burika ummati fi bukuriha. That my ummah has been blessed in its early times. The early parts of the day are a blessed part of the ummah. Now, okay, dislike actions during fasting which do not break the fast. The first one you can read yourself. Number 2, any other act which could be a precursor to relations. You can read the rest yourself. Number 3, gathering phlegm in one's mouth and swallowing it actively. Yes? So basically a person continues to swallow the saliva actively. In order to do what? To quench his thirst. That is makruh. As for a person naturally swallowing their phlegm, there's no harm in that. Okay, tayyib. Non-necessary activities which will physically weaken. For example, sports activities. Yes, which will physically weaken the person. Yes, if they are unnecessary, it's makruh. It's disliked to do that. Now, there might be certain scenarios in which you believe actually invalidate the fast. No? But in fact, they don't. Let's look at some of these activities. Eating or drinking or relations in forgetfulness. Yes? So a person forgets and eats and has a full 3-course meal. Yes? Then he remembers. What's the state of his fast? Still valid. Still valid. Yes? The involuntary discharge of semen whether one is awake or sleeping. Yes? For example, a person lifts a heavy weight and some discharge exits. That doesn't invalidate the fast. Nor does, you're on page 21 by the way, nor does a person awakening and finding fluids around his body. That does not invalidate the fast. Vomiting less than a mouthful does not invalidate the fast. Vomiting more than a mouthful, it invalidates the fast and qada is required. Okay? It invalidates the fast and qada is required. Applying scented oil to one's hair or body. Or even applying kuhl. Answering to one's eyes also does not invalidate one's fast. Okay? Eating morsels of food stuck between the teeth which are less than a chickpea. Okay? On the condition that what? They are within the mouth. So let's say, for the sake of argument, somebody's had some meat stuck in their teeth. They go and pray Fajr, they come back, they go to sleep, they wake up in the morning and they swallow it. Yes? And they swallow it. Even if it's intentional, it does not break the fast. Even if it's intentional, it does not break the fast. If it's greater than a chickpea, yes? Let's say the size of a date, for example, it's quite large, yes? If it's greater than a chickpea, then what? It will demand atonement, if done intentionally. If done unintentionally, just demand qada. Good, just one qada. Okay, alhamdulillah. Tasting food without swallowing the food. Tasting food without swallowing the food. This is allowed for women who have oppressive husbands. Inshallah. Okay. Applying kuhl to the eyes, which mentioned previously. Rinsing one's mouth or nose without, whether that is during wudu or out of it, there is no dislike. No? There is no dislike. No. Bathing in order to keep cool, no harm in that. Swallowing saliva, cupping, acupuncture or injections. All of these actions, cupping, acupuncture or injections, none of these actions invalidate one's fast. Clear so far? Beginning the fast in a state of major ritual impurity. So a person wakes up, let's say, after the time of dawn, the Fajr time was still present. The person had a nocturnal emission, so he needs now to perform wudu and ghusl. Yes? Can he fast? Yes, he can. He can still fast. Okay? Okay, and you have the details there. No. It's not broken also by a person swallowing dust, flies, or even water that's in the mouth. Like for example, a person spat out everything he possibly can after wudu, maybe little remnants of water that is swallowed, that does not invalidate the fast. It does not invalidate the fast. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear, ya ikhwan? The reason why we're going through fiqh point by point, because there is a possible of confusion. Yes, that's why we're going through the fiqh point by point. It's very important. Valid reasons for delaying the fast: travel, and we know the conditions. When can a person travel and break his fast or delay his fast? When? What time? That's right. Before dawn. Before dawn. Okay, and you can read the details there. Also, if one fears an increase in the intensity of the illness, or a delay in recuperating from his illness, or a sound person developing an illness, is allowed to delay the fast. There's 3 things there. What are the 3 things? Increase in intensity, delay in recuperating, or a sound person developing a new illness. Who is this determined by? Do you determine this yourself? No. This is determined first of all by an upright Muslim doctor. by upright Muslim physician. Okay? That's the first means, how you determine this. The second means you determine this is by previous experience. If a person knows that when they fast, they get this particular illness from previous years or previous attempts. And the number 3 is discernible signs. Number 3 is discernible signs. What I mean by that is clear signs. And a person starts fasting and they have illness intensifying, that's a clear sign. Okay. Thereafter, terminally, okay, that's number 2. Is that clear? Any questions on number 2? No, tayyib. Terminally ill. Each day the seriousness of the illness intensifies and there is no hope of recovery. He must pay fidya. A person is continuously, his conditions continuously worsening. Yes? And this person has no real hope of improving. Yes? This person has no real hope of improving. This person can give fidya. Nasallu afu al-afi, ask al-aziz. If a person has cancerous, or they have just been through leukemia and chemotherapy, where the body's been totally weakened, yes, then in this situation, a person can give fidya. Clear? Okay, we'll work out how much fidya is in a moment. Recompense. A very elderly man whose health is consistently deteriorating is excused from fasting and must pay al-fidya. An elderly man who is basically gradually dying, more or less, or woman obviously, then they must pay what? Fidya. Okay, what is fidya? Let's figure out what fidya. Okay, is that clear? No. If the person, however, is just ill, yes? If the person, however, is just ill, terribly ill, he can delay his fasting, but should he pay fidya? No, because why? He's going to get better and he can make up the fasts. The fidya is only paid, make a note for yourself, the fidya is only paid by somebody who has no hope of getting better. There's no hope of getting better. Is that clear? Mafhum? Tayyib. The fidya is paid for each day that is missed. So it comes to 1.82 kilograms. Yes? Of wheat or its equivalent value. And when you pay 1.82 middle quality wheat, don't go for the worst possible quality one that's got its the things that the comb they take it out from also. Yes, it has to be middle quality. If a person go for the best quality, they can also do that. Yes, 1.82 or its equivalent value. Who is it paid to? Same category mentioned under atonement, the poor and the masakin. Yes, and the person cannot afford this. Yes, he should beseech Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Okay, we're gonna, the rest of the section there you can read by yourself, inshallah. It's not difficult. No. It's about bequeathing your fidya. Okay, let's go to the soul and its rewards. Now, if a person wishes to have the fast of the people of proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in addition to what we have just mentioned, a person should maintain these following advice. Protecting one's gaze. If a person wishes to taste the sweetness of the fast and sweetness of Ramadan, the person should protect their gaze. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Sahmun min siham al-shaytan." The person who cannot protect their gaze, the sweetness of the faith will leave them in due time. The sweetness of the faith will leave them in due time. And a person who protects their faith, protects their eyesight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will plant the sweetness of faith within their heart. So a person who is not diverting his eyesight even in the month of Ramadan, even of the month of Ramadan, then there's fear for the iman of that person, because through that it's a means by which the heart will become corrupted. It's a means by which the heart will be corrupted. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Man taraka shay'an lillah fa'awwadahu Allahu ta'ala khayrun minhu." Whoever leaves a thing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replace that thing with something better than it. Now, and Imam Ghazali, he says that when he talks about qasratu shahwatain, talking about breaking the two desires, he mentions, rahimahullah ta'ala, that from the means of a person protecting their gaze is for him to think naturally, intelligently. Think, what is he going to gain from this? Yes, and he says, if she's ugly, when you find out if she's ugly, you'll just gain displeasure and a distaste within your heart. And if you find out if the woman is beautiful, and the same goes for women, also obviously looking at men, then what will they gain from this? Nothing. Just anguish, because a person can't fulfill the final of that call. So in all aspects, the person's foolish and stupid, according to Imam Ghazali. He mentions this. Also, for protecting from one's gaze, a person should think what Allah will give him in response to this. And also a person should perform miswak. A miswak, from the asrar of miswak, is that protects the gaze of people. Thereafter, guarding one's tongue, lying, backbiting, scandal mongering, obscenity, rudeness, wrangling, and controversy. All of these will decrease from the ajr of the sawm itself, and also make you lose from the benefit of the month itself. You will find that the benefit of the month itself will decrease and diminish, and the benefit of the fast also. The benefit of the fast also, to the extent that the Prophet ﷺ has said, if somebody insults you, what do you reply in response? Ana sa'im, I am fasting. I am fasting, and let that person be. Why should you be the person who ruins your fast for somebody else? Let them ruin their fast, but you should be the person who keeps their fast intact. So the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ صَوْمِ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلَا يَرْفُثْ وَلَا يَخْطَبْ فَإِنْ سَابَ أَحَدٌ أَوْ قَاتَلَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. If somebody tries to wrangle with you, or to fight with you, to argue with you, or to debate with you, or to discuss with you in heightened voices, you should leave the majlis. A person should leave the majlis and safeguard their fast. In one of the great scholars, he mentioned a person who backbites, Sufyan al-Thawri, he mentioned that the person who backbites, his fast is invalidated. According to one of the great scholars of the past, his fast is invalidated. Tayyib. And keeping the limbs away from sins. Keeping the limbs away from sins. Your hands, your feet from reprehensible deeds. And then your stomach also from questionable food. Your food should be halal when a person breaks their fast. And Ghazali mentions himself that the worst situation is one who fasts. I think in note 25, only one who fasts to consume the unlawful is like he who builds a castle and demolishes a city. Who builds a castle demolishes a city. The unlawful is a deadly poison to religion, while the lawful is a medicine which is beneficial in small doses but harmful in excess. So even when a person eats food, it's like what? A medicine. Only enough food is consumed as can keep your back straight. That's why a third of your stomach is left for your food, a third is left for water, and a third is left for air. A person shouldn't eat to their fill. And I'm sure anybody who's ate to their fill will know about the lethargy that brings about. Especially since Taraweeh is also going to be very close to the time of Iftar this year. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be people who will fast. but they will get nothing from their fast except hunger. They'll receive nothing from their fast except hunger, and Allah has no need of their fast. And there will be people who will fast, but they will do ghiba of someone, or or lie about someone, or consume the haram. So these people, Allah has no fast, no place for their fast. And thereafter, also to perfect your fast, a person should not overeat. No, a person should not overeat. A person should only eat of that much which is necessary, and that necessary is variable. It changes from person to person, sometimes from scenario to scenario. But a person should only eat that much which is necessary. You are what you eat. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned a hadith clearly saying the relationship between food and what you perform, and who you are and what you do. The Prophet ﷺ said, قُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Eat from the طَيِّبَات مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. وَقَالَ تعالى, and then he mentioned أَمْرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ بِمَا أَمَرَ بِهِ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. Allah commanded the believers as He commanded the prophets. قُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Eat from the good actions which Allah has bestowed upon you. And Allah says, قُلُوا وَعْمَلُوا الصَّالِحَةِ. Eat and do good deeds. The relationship between a person eating and the deeds which they perform, and the deeds which they perform. And we all know this now. This is not something that's rocket science. It's not rocket science. A person, what they eat is what they are. A person, what they eat is what they are. So a person shouldn't overeat on that particular, even though they are fasting in the month of Ramadan. Number 5, after the fast has been broken, the heart should feel hope, but also be fearful lest the fast has been rejected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a person should fast, and then at the end of the fast, what is the dua? فَاللَّهُ تَقَبَّلْ مِنِّي, O Allah, accept it from me. Because who knows whether the fast has been accepted? You may have kept the fast during the whole day, and the last moment of the fast, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, due to some riya, due to some show, has rejected it. So we should be ones in which we should know that at the end of all of the fasts, we should hope to Allah and pray to Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the fast. You can read about the history of fasting. It's in your notes. And Imam Al-Ghazali mentions the 3 states of the fast. He mentions the 3 states of the fast. If you're striving for perfection, yes. The 3 states of the fast. Striving for perfection, that's page 33. We will finish on time, inshallah. Maybe start just 10, 20 minutes later, 15 minutes later maybe. Praiseworthy acts during Ramadan, ya ikhwan. Delaying the suhoor to the last period before dawn. Yes. Hastening and breaking the fast at sunset, we've covered that. Supplication at the time of iftar, one should earnestly pray to Allah for all of one's needs. This is the waqt sa'atul istijaba. This is the time where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond. When one breaks their fast, they should break it one of the 2 black things, either water, dates first, the absence of dates, a person should break it with water and keep with the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Thereafter also feeding people during the month of Ramadan. Iftar and calling people to one's house. There's a narration that mentions that the angels invoke blessings during the nights of Ramadan upon the person who feeds a fasting person. And Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam shares his hand in Laylatul Qadr and shakes the hand in Laylatul Qadr of the person who has fasted and has fed other people during the time of the fast. Then you have Laylatul Qadr, and the Laylatul Qadr The night of power, خير من ألف شهر. The night is better than 1,000 months, which equates to approximately 83 years. If a person finds that night, it's as if they have worshipped for 83 years. The signs for the night are as follows. The night is extremely clear. There's no clouds, or very, very little clouds. The stars are shining and it's clear, absolutely clear. The next day, you will see the sun. You'll see the sun will have his rays will be bright. His rays will be bright, and the heat will not be intense from the sun. It will be dissipated. That is a sign for that the night previous was Laylatul Qadr. So, but since nobody knows when it exactly is, except some of the Surah, it's a good idea to search for it in the last 10 days. The last 10 days. There was one of the scholars did some research on this, and we all know that it can change. It's not necessarily on the 21st, 23rd, 25th, 27th, 29th. It can necessarily change. One scholar did some research on this, and according to the signs, for these signs I just mentioned, I mentioned the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Now I just mentioned the hadith. And he looked for the signs, and he found it one night. The signs which he mentioned, the time we started to look, and it was on the 27th. Yes, on this night he found. Then he looked for it for the next year. He found it on the 25th. Then he looked the next year, he found it on the 23rd. Then he looked the next year, he found it on the 21st. Then he looked the next year, he found it on the 23rd. Yes? So he said it appears it's moving throughout the odd days. Moving throughout the odd days. Yes? So, but how he passed away many centuries ago, so we don't exactly know what occurred after that, you know. But if you look, you'll find this. Any of you actually, when it comes to the last 10 days of Ramadan, I ask all of you, go outside and have a look. Well, if you're in I'tikaf, look out the window, don't go outside. You're I'tikaf, invalidate it. Yes, look. Yes, and you will see this. You will see that it'll be a bright day. The night before was totally dark, totally clear. The stars were shining. The next day is a bright day. The rays are beaming, and there's no heat. But all the other days there'll either be raining before them, or, as the UK is, you know, or there'll be days in which the heat is intense. Yes, and you'll find this is for you to search out, inshallah. And if you do search it out and find it, don't forget us in your du'as also, inshallah. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So, yeah, ikhwan, the night of Laylatul Qadr, خير من ألف شهر, better than 1,000 nights. Yeah? So make use of that night. Look for that night. Stay awake during that night. It's only a short night. By the time you finish Tarawih, by the time Suhoor, it's less than what? An hour, 2 hours maybe, if that. Yes? So make use of this time. The scholars of the past, when they used to come to the Laylatul Qadr or the Ramadan, they would close their books, and there will be no more education taking place, no more teaching taking place, because they all strive now. First they would strive to get Allah's forgiveness during this month, and then they would strive to find the Laylatul Qadr, they find the blessed night. You know? So the blessed night. Hafiz ibn Hajar mentions about Imam Malik that he used to stop disseminating knowledge in the month of Ramadan, and he would busy himself reciting the Quran. He said Imam Shafi used to finish 60 completions of the Quran. Imam Abu Hanifa also used to complete 60 completions of the Quran. And if you think this is difficult, a person who's a Hafiz, it takes about 13 minutes, 12 minutes to read one juz. Yes? Yeah? See? 12, 13 to read one juz. So if you read 15 in the morning, 15 in the evening, 15 times 12 Who's the accountant friend? Now 15 times, let's say 15 times 10, right? Yes, 15 times 10. Yeah, 1,500 minutes. Divide that by 60. About 6 hours maybe. Same in the evening. Consider they've got no other occupation other than this. Because they would put themselves to tasks. And I'm sure you know people who've been to the Haram and they've gone to the Haram, alhamdulillah, Allah fatah alayhim, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He has given them great zeal and finished khatam the Quran in one day. Yes, I'm sure you all heard of people or know people, yes? Yes? So it's not impossible. It's impossible to us because it sounds impossible, yes? But if you see the people that are serious about the akhirah, you will find that they do this. In Tarim, for example, what they do in Yemen, they have a system whereby every masjid is graduated. What I mean by that is that the first masjid starts salah, let's say Taraweeh at 7:30. Next one will start, let's say 8:30. Next one 9:30. Next one 10:30. Next one 11:30. 12:30. Till about 2 hours before suhoor, then they stop. Yes? So if a person wanted, he could go to multiple masajid. He could do one khatam there, next khatam there, next khatam there, next khatam there, next khatam of the Quran there. So by the time that he leaves from there, he will, just in the recitation of Taraweeh itself, you will have multiple khatam. But as you know, nothing works in Tarim until after Dhuhr on Ramadan. Everything's closed. Yes? So the whole society changes, in preparation for the sacred month. So what should our role be, ya ikhwan, in this time that Allah has bestowed upon us? We should try to prepare for it from now. We should try to put our holidays into place if we haven't already done so, and try to use this time. Because nobody knows whether this time will return back to us, and the hereafter is coming to every single one of us, whether it comes in this year or in maybe in this week or in this day or in these moments or in the next 2 to 3 years. It is coming, and let's prepare for it before it comes. As for the prohibition of reciting the Quran completing the Quran in less than 3 days, this is only in normal circumstances. Ramadan is not a normal circumstance, because some of the Huffaz also before used to complete the Quran less than 3 days, just to do muraja'ah, just to do revision. Yes, so there's no harm in doing that. There's no harm in doing that. So this is the month, ya ikhwan, time to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's tawbah, His forgiveness. This is the time in which to return back to Allah. And the stations of each person in their fasting and in their actions are 3 stations. And Imam Ghazali had demarcated those, and we finished there inshallah. And those on page number 35. And the 3 stations of the general public. This entails the stomach and the private part abstaining from and fulfilling their normal desires, and as outlined above. What we've basically already done. Yes? Then your station of the khawas, the elect. This is where all the organs of the body abstain from injustice and wrong actions. This is also referred to as the fast of the righteous. It entails preserving 6 things: sight, speech, hearing, hand, stomach, and heart. This fast is a trust, so let each of you keep true to their trust. And then the station of the khawas al-khawas. This entails that the heart fasting and abstaining from worldly concerns and thoughts that distract from the remembrance of God. One ends up breaking this type of fast from merely contemplating other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the last day, or concerning one's self with the world, unless it is worldly matter sought for the betterment of religion, as this is a provision for the hereafter. And that, ya ikhwan, is the station of the prophets and the station of the khas al-khawas. Station of the khas of khawas. And we should be aware, ya ikhwan, that we can only do this if we organize our time. Because Ramadan will come, you'll say, let me take a nap. Yes? And then the nap, that should be an hour, turn into 2 hours. And every day it'll increase by an hour or half an hour. Yes? So before you know it, that all of Ramadan will have left you, and you'll be khasir, you'll be the loser in this transaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Imam Ghazali in the beginning of his book Bidayat wa Nihaya says you will not benefit from your time until you organize your time. So time management is not a Western concept, it's a totally Muslim concept, a totally Muslim idea which the scholars previously used to do. They used to say after Fajr I'm going to do this, after Dhuhr is this, after Asr is this, after Maghrib is this, after Isha is this, before Tahajjud is this, after Tahajjud is this, before Fajr is this, and like this. And they used to be realistic. So if you turn the next page, Ikhwan, if you turn the page at the back, you have for your disposal a timetable. Sorry, we've only given you 10 days. Yes, just photocopy 2 more copies. And then you can use that. And be realistic. Don't say you're going to sleep 3 hours in Ramadan, because you won't. Yes? Unless, mashallah, you already do. Yes? Give yourself, how much does Imam Ghazali say? How much time is necessary for a person to sleep? What does he mention in Bidayat Hidayah? Anybody remember? 8 hours. He mentions 8 hours. He says sleep 8 hours. Yes? But in the rest of the 16 hours that you have, use them wisely. Use them wisely. Yes? So you can do this, only do this by you managing your time. Put in time for your family, obviously time for your work, time for mundane duties that you have to do for yourself and for your family, and these can become gathering of the hereafter if you do the right intention. And spare that time and organize that time, otherwise you'll find that your Ramadan will pass you by, similar to the previous Ramadans that have passed. Photocopy this, stick it on your wall. Photocopy this, stick it on your wall, and then you will live and complete by this timetable, inshallah ta'ala. If you turn the next page, this is more for the house, the Murabbat al-Manzil, the lordess of the house, because the children are going to be basically at home for most of the summer holidays and for most of Ramadan. So what do we do with them? Also, it's a time to involve the children into our Ramadan. Read to them the qisas, the stories of the people of the piety of the past, and how they used to spend their Ramadan. To give them aspirations to become like the people of the past, and this occurs through giving them news and to do stories and to reflect over these stories. And the other activities there to get the children to memorize portions of the Quran in Ramadan, alhamdulillah, so they can get connected to the book of Allah in the month of Allah, in the month of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of this particular month. So alhamdulillah ya ikhwan, this is mashallah the time in which you need to start preparing. There's only less than 2 weeks left. With Judge, roll up your sleeves and start preparing for this time before it enters, and plan your time and discuss that with your family. And also you also need to be strict upon yourself and others. If people say let's go somewhere for a meal and that disrupts your timetable, you need to think again. You need to tell them, maybe invite them for a meal to your house. Yes? That way you can restrict your time movements. Otherwise your whole week and your whole 4 weeks will go, and at the end you'll have nothing to show for it except remorse. So Allah make us people of inaba and iyada, inshallah ta'ala, make us people of hidayah, and people people that we guide ourselves and guide others and guide our families, because people of light, which enlighten and ennoble other people's cause towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhi da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. We take some questions very quickly, inshallah. 10 minutes maximum for questions, inshallah. Any questions? Yes, sisters can write them down and pass them to the sisters to bring it down, inshallah. To him. Any questions, ya ikhwan?
So somebody's diabetic, so every person's diabetic, and due to the long fast, summer fast, there's for a week and their health could deteriorate. Intermittent fast without something.
They can delay their fast to the winter months and make them up in the winter months. So a person who's diabetic, due to not being able to fast for a long 20-hour fasts, they can delay them to the winter months and re-perform them during the winter months, and there's no harm upon them, inshallah ta'ala. Any other questions?
Say if you sleep the majority of the day, would you have to you have to redo the fast after Ramadan?
Now, if a person sleeps the majority of the day, it's not the best way to fast your Ramadan, but the fast is still correct. The fast is still valid. But it's not the best way to spend your Ramadan.
So we wake up for Salah. Once you wake up for Salah.
As long as you wake up for Salah, yeah. That's a given, see. Yeah. Clarification on legal maturity of fasting. Boys younger than 14 years, 8 months, not required to fast. No, just to clarify, we said they reach maturity at the age of 14 years and 8 months, unless they have had a wet dream previously. Yes, if they had a wet dream, then obviously that is the age of maturity. They reach the age of maturity. Boys are commanded to fast at the age of 7 and highly induced at the age of 10. Yes. So by the time they reach 14, if they haven't already become legally mature, it's already a good required habit of them. So boys younger than 14 and 8 months are required to fast, but it's not compulsory. It's not compulsory until they reach the age of maturity, which either comes at the age of ihtinam, the age of a wet dream, or if that doesn't occur, then 14 years and 8 months, and at that point it becomes compulsory upon them to fast, as long as they fulfill all the other conditions we've also completed. Is that clear? Next, if someone wanted to give money for kafara, are they obliged to give the equivalent of the cost of the meal in their own locality or country, i.e. much cheaper to feed 60 people in Africa than here in UK? The amr is mufawwad ilaykum, that the affair is left to your discretion. However, it becomes more correct and sounds more intelligent and more keeping with Allah's hope, Allah's maghfirah, if a person gives it according to the standard of his meal. The standard of his meal, not the standard of meal of somebody else. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, and this talk in the context of the people what we are commanded to look after, when he said, أَطْعِمْهُمْ كَمَا تُطْعِمُونَ وَتُسْقِيهِمْ كَمَا تُسْقِينَ وَتَلْبِسُمْ كَمَا تَلْبِسُونَ. He said, feed them as you feed yourself, water them as you water yourself, and dress them as you dress yourself. So in the same understanding, it's not a legally a condition. You can feed them anywhere, but just attracting the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be more suitable to feed the people how you yourself eat. Okay? Cleaning teeth during the day with toothpaste would not invalidate the fast. That does not invalidate the fast, although there is karaha. Does not invalidate the fast, although there is karaha, there is dislike. The last question, what about in pregnancy? It might be that the boy is harmed without the mother feeling any signs, but equally not entirely clear according to his current evidence what the impact of fasting is on a developing fetus. May be harm, may not be. Should one take a risk? In the context of a woman who is pregnant, she is absolved from fasting, and she needs to make it up at her earliest convenience after the child has been born, and she doesn't need to have recourse to previous experience on that particular case. The last question is, inshallah, is the girl's age of menstruation greater than 11? I have previously understood it to be 9. Now, the difference between 9 and 11, it's a valid difference of opinion in the school. Some have claimed it to be 9, and that's what Ustad Hidayah Hartford and other people have adopted, while others have said it's 11. But you're more forward ilaykum, it returns back to yourself. But the issue is the girl who gets a menstruation younger than 9, obviously it's of no accordance with that opinion. Gets menstruation younger than 9 is of no accordance, which means she's not legally mature, even if she sees a little bit of blood. It's only after 9 she sees blood, she becomes mature. With 11, and with that opinion, if she sees it before 11, she's legally mature, and obviously at the age of 14, 8 months, then she's also legally mature, as we mentioned. طيب, any other questions? Any announcements, Eddie?
Sorry, I just want to say Jazakallah khair for everybody attending this course, and may Allah make it a means us fulfilling Ramadan, and benefiting from Ramadan, and then continuing after Ramadan in terms of what we become people of practice, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for Shaykh Zaqir for coming down, inshallah. As I mentioned, the announcements for August, the Tarbiyah course for 14 to 17-year-olds, the diploma course. Again, we're taking an intake on that. So if you're interested, sisters, leave then your names with the sisters, and brothers, you can leave your names here. And also, if anybody wants to donate towards this event or any of the future events, then please come. Either the brothers can speak to me, and the sisters can speak to the sisters. So, once again, Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Zaqir, for coming down. And inshallah, announcement for the event on Thursday for sisters. Ustad Badriya is coming down, and that's the sisters only event. That's starting at 5:30 here at Al-Kaf. So if you have your sisters, wives, family members, just please let them know, inshallah, and so they can attend. Jazakallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم يا ربنا تجاوز عنا خطايانا سيئاتنا كلها أجمعين وادخلنا جنة الفردوس مع العالين صديقين وشهداء وصالحين بدون مسابق العذاب ولا عتاب ولا فتنة ولا حساب يا أرحم الراحمين يا اللهم آت نفوسها تقواها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها وأنت مولاها اللهم نسألك العفو والعافية مع فات دائم في ديني دنياي وأهلي ومالي يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم بارك لنا في هذا الشهر يا ربنا بلغنا رمضان فإنك يا ربي على كل شيء قدير وسؤالنا جدير جعلنا أتقى من أهل النيران يا ذا الجلال والإكرام وعنا على صيامها وقيامها وتلاوة فيها يا رب العالمين فإنك على كل شيء قدير وسؤالنا جدير اللهم اجعلنا الذين يجد في شهر هذا يا رب العالمين واجعلنا الذين يستمعون قولي يتبعون أحسنه سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة آمين بارك الله فيك